Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 2 of the Aurora Diaries. Going abroad for a year can be a lot of work, from organising visas to classes to getting approval from both your own university and your host university. And today I wanted to talk through the whole process, what I had to do to get my place abroad, and also my tips, tricks, little pieces of advice that I would recommend for anyone else who's planning to embark on this journey. So sit back and relax and enjoy, I hope. So this video is going to be split into 2 parts. The first part of this video is going to be explaining the process of application to be on the study abroad course. This is going to be specific to the University of Birmingham, but I can imagine that at every other university in the UK there will be a similar-ish process. But also along with that, the process of application that I had to go through at my host university before I was given admission to the uni. And then the second part of this video is going to be my tips, tricks and advice for anyone who's planning to go on this wonderful journey. Obviously, disclaimer, this process is very, very unique to my university and it won't be the same at every university that you go to. So if you're looking at this a few years down the line, it may change, it may not be the same at your university. So yeah, but this is just my process and my experience with it all. So just for a bit of context, I originally was on the 3-year degree for psychology. So I was meant to graduate next summer, 2024, but I really wanted this opportunity and it was actually a bit of a mess up on my end. I put the wrong UCAS code in when I was applying, so if you're at that process, please check the UCAS codes. They are very different for study abroad courses and non-study abroad courses. So I, during first year, did the course as usual, had no issues at all. And then when we get to second year, you have the opportunity, at least at the University of Birmingham, to apply onto the psychology with a year abroad course. Now, because at least when I was applying, the entry requirements for both the Bachelor's of Psychology and the Bachelor's of Psychology with a year abroad course were the same. It didn't actually matter too much when you're transferring courses. That actually was the easy part in all this. So it was very viable for me to move between the courses, which I am very, very grateful for. So I actually had to kind of go through a few extra steps that I wouldn't have had to go through if I was on the study abroad course already. But again, those steps in the grand scheme of things were quite small and quite easy and fluid. So if you are in a similar situation to me, or you're just not sure yet and you just want to apply into a 3-year degree and then move over and you're at the University of Birmingham, you'll have no issue. Hopefully, like, take this with a pinch of salt, every degree is different. You shouldn't have any issues. So the first thing I had to do when I was looking to apply abroad was I had to attend a few talks in October to kind of get a feel for what the actual year abroad would look like, how it would matter and impact my degree, and if it really was the right suit for me. So I have the dates for everything, so I can create a little bit of a timeline. On the 14th of October 2022, I attended a psychology-specific information session for year abroad students. This basically detailed the very, very bare bones of what the year abroad was, what the entry requirements were, what would be expected of us out there, and how it would benefit us in the long term. From my experience, this was quite a scary talk because I was still not completely sure if I wanted to do this year out or not. But if you're in that similar situation to me, like, please do not worry, you will find your feet with it, and it actually is a lot more self-explanatory usually than it sounds. And then on the 27th of October 2022, I attended the Go Global Fair that the University of Birmingham holds for all of the students that are planning to go away for a year. This basically consists of every country having their own stall in this great big hall, and you can go and talk to the students that have been to that country before or are from that country or are ambassadors of the universities that are in that country, and just get a feel for like what the country's like, what the culture's like, if you would enjoy being at the university, if it's a campus city. It's kind of like when you're at sixth form and you're looking at universities in the UK or wherever you're planning to go. It's quite similar to that process, and I think overall it is quite a similar, like, you're starting university again process, but you're not. So it's quite comforting because you're doing everything that you've already done over again. The second thing I was doing alongside this was talking to friends that had either been abroad or were planning to go abroad or had experiences living abroad for a while, and just see what their experiences were like, if they enjoyed it, what the setbacks were, what they found difficult, just seeing if, you know, from them knowing me and me knowing them, if it would be a good fit for me. Overall, it seemed quite positive. A lot of my friends were very encouraging of it. There are a few people that were honest with me and said, hey, look, like this specific aspect of the year abroad might not be for you, just an FYI, which was very appreciative. I appreciated both the good and the bad because I wanted to have an equal and balanced opinion on the whole process. And then in a very Rory Gilmore fashion, I created a pros and cons list of why I should go abroad. I will, if I can find it, I will put a photo up here of what it looked like and what my pros and cons were. I cannot actually remember, this was a very long time ago now, but I can imagine it was kind of like, will I make friends? Will I adjust to the culture okay? What if I don't get my top choice of the university? Again, like it's a good way to work out if it's really for you. Are the pros weighing out the cons, or is there so many cons that you can't even think of any pros? It puts all your thoughts into one place and is quite visual as well, so if you're that sort of person, it helps. For me, I also worked out what my priorities were for where I wanted to go and why I wanted to go away. I think sometimes it just is seen as a fancy, cool, sway opportunity that people don't really actually consider why they specifically want to go away for a year. So I did a lot of journaling and meditating, and also just generally thinking about what were my specific requirements for going away, what did I need out of a place that I was going to live for a year, and why I wanted to go away. Some of these things for me personally, these are obviously very different from everyone, were that I wanted to be able to speak the language of the country I was going to, because my 5 in GCSE German was not going to get me very far. I'm also very lucky that I know a lot of people in a lot of different countries, and so for me personally, I wanted to be somewhere where I knew someone in the vicinity. It didn't necessarily have to be someone in the same city, but someone who was close enough that if I really was struggling, I could go and see them, or they could come and see me, and it would give a bit more of a comforting feel. I also have experience in both the USA and Canada, and I really enjoyed being in those countries, and I knew that I'd enjoy it again. It was a very fine balance between comfort, safety, and challenge that I think everyone is very different at. Their bars are very set differently, so maybe you need more comfort, or you want more challenge, or you need more safety. Whatever your mix is, just finding that balance and working out what your priorities and requirements are for going away can be really helpful. And then after I'd attended those meetings and I talked to some people and I'd worked out why I wanted to go away and what my requirements were, it was time to do some research. So the study abroad application process at the University of Birmingham essentially requires you to pick 7 choices in order of preference that you'd like to be considered for to go away to those universities for a year. There are also some specific requirements with that. So your first 3 choices have to be from different countries, they have to be from different popularity bands, and so those 2 requirements also mean that you have to kind of be quite tactical with your choices. I'm going to go on to later to tell about which ones I applied to and why. When researching, it took a while, if I'm honest. I was looking at loads of different universities in loads of different countries and trying to work out ones where I knew someone in the vicinity, but they also had decent psychology programs. I was also quite lucky that I was able to speak to a lot of people that either went to those universities that I was looking at, or knew someone that did, or lived in the country that I was planning to look into. So I also did a few mini-esque interviews on social media with people just to see what their thoughts were, if they recommended any specific classes, if they hated something specifically, and what things like the mental health services were like, or just general communication at the university. So once I'd done my research, it was time to submit my first out of many applications. Every department at the University of Birmingham works differently with their study abroad programs, and again, it might differ from year to year. So if you're looking at this as someone who is in psychology at University of Birmingham, firstly, hi, how's it going? Secondly, it may be different by the time you're applying, so please take this with a pinch of salt in any way. This is more a documentation of what I did and comparing it to other people's experiences. So on the 20th of November, we had to submit our first application, and this was department specific, again, just for psychology students, and this was so we could qualify to apply to the uni-wide study abroad program. So this application consisted of a 700-word personal statement of the 7 choices you wanted to go to. This was also quite an academically driven personal essay. You also had to submit your 7 choices with the country they were in and then the potential classes, module choices you would take while you were out there. So it obviously did require you looking into the specific university programs, what courses they offered and what level like you would be at, and if you would be able to actually apply onto those classes, etc. Because places like the US, you have to have specific credentials to be able to do certain classes. It's a bit of a headache, if I'm honest. Just as an FYI, these are the places that I applied to, in particular order actually. So the first one was William Laurier University in Canada, University of Queensland in Australia, University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in the USA, Ottawa University in Canada, University of Toronto also in Canada, McMaster's University in, you guessed it, Canada, and then the University of Illinois in Chicago, USA. Also had to provide a personal reference from your tutor. Mine was very, very lovely, so thanks to my personal tutor. So then we had a few days wait to find out if we'd been successful or not. I think the only things that people usually got pulled up on were the average grade for your first year. That was also a big one. For psychology, you had to have, I think, at least a 60 in first year to qualify to move on to the study abroad course. And also, if you were picking countries and universities and they didn't have much, you weren't giving much detail about the academic side and why you wanted to go to them. I think sometimes people got pulled on that, but I think generally most people were successful in their applications. And then on the 30th of November, we had to submit our university-wide application to the study abroad team. This was relatively simple and relatively similar to the previous one. So you had to submit your 7 choices with the country they were in and then also your classes preferences. You then also had to fill out a 700-word personal statement again, but this one was more based on personal reasons and academic reasons obviously, and just generally why you wanted to go, which was really nice because I had a lot of personal reasons why I wanted to go to these 7 choices and I wasn't able to talk about that in my first personal statement, so to be able to kind of really talk about those reasons was really nice and I really liked it and enjoyed it. And then part of that application you had to say that you had officially transferred onto study abroad program if you weren't already on it. So on the 2nd of December I submitted my transfer form, obviously because I was moving between courses that had the same entry requirements and were very, very basically the same in their academic side. I didn't have any issues. I just had to I think put my credentials in and that was kind of it. So that was really nice, and then I transferred and then everything on my emails and my student ID changed, which was very nice to see and very exciting. And then on the 26th of January 2023 I found out where I was going. Again, you can probably kind of guess where I'm going, but I got my choice and I was very, very happy. I actually got it at work, but I was very happy, and I think everyone that I spoke to was very, very happy, including my friend that actually lives close to the university, so that was really sweet. And then jumping forward a bit, on the 17th of February I got my nomination from the university that I'm going to, basically just to say here's all the application stuff that you need to fill out on our end and we're looking forward to seeing you. So I then had to complete an application for my host university, which was due on the 15th of March, I believe. This included a 1-page personal statement for the 3rd time on why I wanted to go to this uni specifically and what courses I was interested in. I also had to give a few personal details and proof of funding that I was able to actually look after myself while I was in this country. I had to provide my passport details and just generally making sure that I was a fit candidate to go and spend a year in the USA. So once I'd been accepted at my host university, which was about the end of March, I then had to apply for my visa. I had to luckily wait for some documents to be posted to me and shipped over from the USA before I could even think about applying for my visa. But one of my main tips of advice that I'll go on to say later is start this process early because it is not easy at all. Also, in this time just before my documents arrived, I had to register for classes. I obviously had to set up all my accounts, so my email and my student ID portal. Thank God it's very similar to the University of Birmingham where we use Canvas and Outlook. So for me personally, it was really not that much of an issue after we got through the initial stages of my account not working. As I say though, I registered for classes on the 3rd of April. And obviously something that's very weird about the US is you pick the times of your classes as well, that matters. Over here, I just get given my timetable, I don't really get a say in it. So it was a very stressful and very like overwhelming process for someone that's never done this before. But here are the list of the classes that I am enrolled in. I'm sure I will talk about them a lot in the near future. So as I said, these documents arrived on the 12th of April, I believe, and then on the 13th I spent the entire day doing my visa application. And I think, again, a bit of a side note with the tips, do this as soon as you can and do it all in one go, because I had friends that were doing it in stages or bits, and it gets very confusing very quickly if you're not doing it as a fluid process. If you're not doing it as a fluid process, it becomes quite difficult very quickly. And also I wanted to just get it all sent off straight away because I had a gut feeling it would take a while to get everything back. And when I was applying for my visa, this all happened during the Easter vacation that we get a month off in April or so. So luckily that was all happening whilst I was only just revising for my exams. And then the first week back on the 18th of April 2023, we had our pre-departure week with the study abroad team at the University of Birmingham. This basically consisted of a few meetings throughout the week where we had to attend, and they were on travel insurance, mental health and well-being while abroad, and general information that we needed to know on the university's end before we left the country, essentially. I also had to apply for housing accommodation at my host university during the end of April, as this was due on the 1st of May. So my mum and I sat down, and like you do in first year when you're applying for university accommodation, you look through all, how far is it all from the buildings? Will I have a roommate? What's the actual accommodation looking like? And then I applied for all that. And then on the 4th of May, hallelujah, I got the notification to say that my visa had been approved and my documents were being shipped back to me. And I'm very fortunate that this all happened just before my exams started. And again, another reason that I suggest getting in early with all this, because I had friends again doing all this while we were in the middle of exams, and I couldn't imagine the stress. I was stressed enough as it was, and the exams hadn't even started yet. And then on the 8th of May, I booked my flights for the first semester. So that was a very final point of the massive puzzle clicking into place. And then by the 30th of June, I had to submit travel cover confirmation to my university, as well as complete the risk assessment. These basically are the travel cover that the university provides for us, and so it details our flight details and why we're going away, etc, etc. And then also the risk assessment is just making sure that we're aware of the potential dangers and potential risks of going to our specific country for the year. Shout out to my housemates who helped think of all the dangers that I could potentially face whilst in the USA. And then at some point in June, I will put the actual date here because I cannot remember for my life, I got the notification to say that I'd been given my room for next year. It wasn't initially what I wanted or needed, and because of specific personal reasons, I asked for a change, and then on this day, I actually got my accommodation that I am going to be in next year. And then between the start of June and now, I've been in meetings with both my own university and my host university in the States, just getting ready for the next year, what we might need to know, how to do things efficiently, what things we need to make sure we have when we're in immigration. And I've also, as I say, been printing out documents and making sure I have all the right things I need for immigration and actually being in the USA, such as medication, and just making sure that I'm seeing everyone before I leave the country. So now on to the advice section of the video. So my first tip is start early. Oh my god, can I not recommend this enough? Especially when it gets to applying for visas and doing all the things that have end dates or need to have end dates, such as before you fly out to a different country. Especially if you're going somewhere like the US, where the visa process is a long one and can feel very, very lengthy and laborious. It's definitely worth starting as early as you can, e.g. the day your documents arrive, you start. Along this, I'd also make sure that giving yourself enough time for things. If you think that your visa is going to take a while to come, then start early. I know friends that have had to go for interviews in London to get their visas because they have been initially rejected. So if you're going to a country that you've never been to before, make sure you give yourself that little bit of extra time in case there's any hiccups. Second tip is ask questions. Ask as many questions as you need to the right people, or anyone really, because if you're struggling and you're stuck, asking those questions is only going to help you. And also alongside that, ask them early. If you've got a deadline to meet for a visa application and you leave it a day before to ask that question to that specific person, the chance of them getting back to you is is slim. So as soon as you have the question, ask it, because you don't know how long it's going to take, especially at first when the communication's only just beginning. You don't have a grasp of how long things really take to come through. So asking as soon as you can is my top tip. Do your own research and be self-sufficient. I don't think many people really realize how much work that actually is involved, and especially when you're looking into the logistical, legal elements of going away for a year. Do your own research, be self-sufficient. If you don't know an answer, find it. If you still can't find it, then you ask your questions. It can feel quite a long process, but it is so worth it. Especially at first, when you're looking at the universities and you need to kind of work out if it would be a good fit for you, it's good to do your own research, because you never know what's gonna actually happen. This again, I've kind of mentioned multiple times, but you've got to have good discipline with yourself. It's a long process, and if you're not disciplined to meet those deadlines, you're going to fall behind quickly. And then be confident in your choices, but do your research. If you have specific beliefs or you express yourself in a specific way, certain countries won't like that and you won't feel very homely there. This is just a piece of advice. There are hidden fees everywhere, even when you don't think there will be, such as paying for your visa if you're going to the US. So just make sure that you're aware of that, and just accumulating those fees does happen. Obviously, if you have a fee that you're unsure of or why you're paying it, ask someone who can help you out, e.g. the study abroad team at your university or your host university exchange tutor. Again, something that I actually was very lucky to do, but I know isn't the case for everyone, is contact people that went to the universities you're interested in, because you never know, there might be a lecturer or a professor that no one likes and you really shouldn't take their classes, or on the other hand, there might be a professor that everyone loves. You want to have the best time when you're away, so taking people's advice, if they say that this class is specifically hard and you won't like it or you won't enjoy it, then maybe give that one a miss. I think the main takeaway for this is just do your research and give yourself time, because those things will help you so much. I would also recommend tracking your expenses. So I think that is kind of it for now. Obviously, if you have any specific questions, either about the University of Birmingham process or flying to the USA, I can help as much as I can. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, don't take any legal advice from me, but if anyone needs any help or advice or just someone to chat to about it all, I'm here. Please feel free to reach out to me on social media. And I hope you enjoyed, and this is the second episode. Obviously, I took a little bit of a break because I was very, very busy, but hopefully there will be a few more coming before I fly out to the USA. And again, if there's anything specific you want to see, or you have any questions about just the year abroad process, please do ask me and I'll be happy to help out. Yeah, okay, bye.